Good morning, Thay, Kozen here, Mount Adams Buddhist Temple. This morning's subject is about reincarnation. During the Buddha's time, the Buddha had Jataka tales, and he told them a lot, and I'm going to read one Jataka tale to start with. But I also want to mention that it's lovely to see Lloyd, Alex, and Arthur in our group this morning. Oh my goodness, I know babies are a lot of work, but thank you for joining us. This is the number 2 of the tales, and they were numbered in order, and this is Finding a New Spring. Once upon a time, a merchant led a caravan to another country to trade. One day they came to the edge of a desert with sand as hot as burning coal. It was so scorching that no one, not even the bullocks or the camels, could walk on it. Left with no choice, the caravan leader hired a desert guide, one who could read the stars so they could travel at night when the sand was cool. In this manner, they trekked dangerously across the desert at night. This went on fine until one night, the guide complacently dozed off to sleep, and when he saw that they were reaching the end of the desert, unattended, the bullocks gradually swerved to the side and traveled around in a big circle until they ended up at the same spot that they had started the night before. By then, the sun had risen up, and when people realized they were back at the same place they camped the day before, they lost heart and began complaining about their condition. They had used up all their water and were afraid that they would die of thirst. "We can't do without water," they reproached the caravan leader and the guide. "If I do nothing but just grumble about this misfortune, we will all die here. Therefore, I must be strong and face this challenge calmly," thought the merchant. He began pacing up and down, thinking of a plan to save them all. Suddenly, he noticed a small clump of grass. No plant can survive in this desert without water, he analyzed. So he gathered the strongest of his fellow travelers and asked them to dig a hole on that very spot. They dug, and after a while they hit a large rock. "Well, this effort is useless. We're just wasting our time," they complained in a blaming tone once again. But the merchant replied, "No, my friends, if we give up now, it will be the end of us and our poor animals. Let us not be discouraged." He got down into the hole immediately and placed his ear to the rock and heard the sound of water flowing. Straight away he called over a boy who had been digging and said, "If you give up, we will all perish. So take this heavy hammer and strike the rock." The boy lifted the hammer over his head and hit the rock as hard as he could. To his surprise, the rock split open and a mighty gush of water sprang out from underneath. The people were overwhelmed with joy. They drank, bathed, washed their animals, cooked their food, and ate heartily. Before they left, they put up a tall banner so that other travelers could see it from afar and come to the new spring in the middle of the desert. They continue on safely to the end of the journey. And the Buddha tells us this story is don't give up too easily. Keep on trying until you reach your goal. The Jataka tales are also filled with many stories about the Buddha's past life, where he was a bird, an ox, he was a hunter, he was a fish. And in these tales, are these real tales about the Buddha's past, or were they tales illuminating stories or values or morals like don't give up? One group, who I'm very, very fond of, wrote a book, From Hungry Ghosts to Being Human. And this is a book that says that all of the realms are what we live in this lifetime. And if anybody is interested, you can get a copy of this book from fifth-precept.org. And it's online, it's free, fifth-precept.org. And this book is mainly about recovery. And the people from this organization, people that live in the hell realms, it's not really after we die, but it's the addiction to alcohol, to drugs, to money, to position, to power, to sex, to cheesecake, food. And in this journey, they talk about all of the realms, from the hungry ghost to the gods. All of the realms, the animal realms, are all right here, right now. Yet, our Tibetan brothers and sisters choose the next Dalai Lama, choose the last Dalai Lama, and chose many of their great teachers in reincarnation. And they go to a young child and they lay out things that once belonged to the previous Dalai Lama or holy man, and they ask the child to pick out the things that belong to them. And the child is able to do that. So is there a self that goes on from lifetime to lifetime? Is there a Kathy or a Kozen or a Sharona or a Nicole or a Carol that goes on from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime? The Buddha was very clear in his teachings. He said, I know many things, but my primary teaching is the cessation of suffering. And so I want to read inform you about a scientific book. And this is 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation. It is by a physician, Ian Stevenson, who taught, I think, at the University of Atlanta, I think it was. And what he did, he found out that young children, not all, but some, can actually say, you know, this is my second mom that I have now. I used to live, and they would name another city. And he thought, well, what is this? So he would take one of these children and their family and go to this other city. And the child had never been there before, per the parents. And the child could say, oh, yes, I used to live in that house. Oh, look, there's my aunt. And my wife died, or my mom died when I was young, but my dad's sister raised me, and she lives over there. And they could identify people and places that they had never been and never seen. Another young child was born with a big birthmark on their shoulder, and the child said, yes, I lived before in this town, and I fell and hurt my shoulder, and I died. And right here, and pointed to the birthmark. And so this Dr. Stevenson took the child and his parents, and they went to this other place, and they found the record that someone indeed did fall and was pierced through the shoulder and died on the scene. So what is it that goes on? If the Buddha said there is no self, what is it that goes on? How does that work? One of our great modern Zen masters, G.U. Kennett Roshi, from Mount Shasta Abbey and also, I think, Thistle Hole Priory in the UK, said that our life is filled with karma and merit. Powell's book, yes, thank you very much for putting that in the chat. Our life is filled with karma and merit. And I want to preface this by telling you the 5 remembrances from the Buddha. The Buddha tells us, I am of the nature to grow old. There's no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There's no way to escape having ill health. I am of the nature to die. There's no way to escape death. Everything and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There's no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground on which I stand. And if that is our only true belonging, our actions, G.U. Kennett said, imagine carrying a little suitcase with you your whole life. And every time Tai Z does something good, he puts the merit of that in the suitcase. And every time he does something terrible, he puts that consequences of that in the suitcase. And pretty soon, this suitcase gets pretty heavy. Well, when Tai Z passes away, he sets the suitcase down. And all of that karma, that action and karma are the same words, essentially. All of that goes on and goes on through life. Imagine you're up in the mountains, and I'm here in the mountains right now, and there's lots of snow, and it's beautiful. And you'll find little tiny ponds that are maybe 5 feet across. Drop a rock in the middle, and the waves go out to every shore of that pond. And I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe one wave drowns a mosquito that might have carried dengue fever. And maybe the other shore across this little pond, maybe it pushes a frog up and a bird eats the frog, and a bear eats the bird, and the bear gets shot and feeds a hungry family for the winter. We don't know the repercussions of our karma. So Perchi you kennet, that karma goes on. We don't know all the repercussions. So what is it, this residual thing that goes on? How does this work? And we've had great scholars from our Tibetan schools. We've had great scholars from our Mahayana and our Theravada schools come up with all of these theories and wonderful stories. And in the Jataka tale, the Buddha tells a story about 3 animal friends, and they escape a hunter, and Buddha says, I was that bird, I was that turtle, I was that animal. And what does that mean? Were we really animals at one time? How does that work? It's one of those great mysteries. When the Buddha was asked, what started the earth? How did it all begin? What would we do? And of course, everyone in our Sangha knows that Jo and her dog were the ones that started the earth and all the subsequent repercussions of living on earth. But the Buddha just smiled and said, my job is to teach the cessation of suffering. So here's the deal, my friends. There is something that goes on. Exactly what, how, and the parameters of that are unknown. But I think of it much like wearing a t-shirt. In this lifetime, if I wear a t-shirt for 4 or 5 days, it gets a little sweaty and stinky and maybe a little oily. And if I take that t-shirt off and lay it down and go take a shower, then that t-shirt still has residual Kozen in it. And it smells a little bit like Kozen, and it's sort of oily like Kozen. And that is there. That essence of Kozen is there in that t-shirt. And all the joys of the laughter and the walking and everything else that happened, that aspect is there in the t-shirt. Some Buddhist philosophers believe that that's what happens with our karma. We don't go on. There is no eternal self that goes on. But the sort of essence, an old t-shirt smell, goes on, and that influences future things. But the secret of the Buddha's teaching, and this is very important, it is our actions right here, right now, that matters most. We can't plan, I'm going to do this for good karma in the future. We cannot say, in my past life, I must have done something terrible to have Chad for a friend. In my past, I must have done something really wonderful to have Reverend Chris as a friend. In my past, I've done something terrible, so I have cancer now. Those are just silly mental formations again and again. I have a friend who's a Buddhist clergy, and they say, in my past life, I must have broken many chicken legs and eaten them because I have such bad arthritis in my feet now. And they're half kidding and half serious. That's not the way karma works. What matters most is our life right here, right now. So Carol earlier talked about that Hermeta goes out to her patients. She works in healthcare and provides great services to folks coming in. It is our actions here, right now. Kate in our Sangha also works in healthcare and provides many wonderful services. And when she's able to look at people who are suffering and in really fear about their disease and spend time with them and reassure them and find out the problem through her diagnostic management, that's the good karma, that is the wholesome karma that carries with us. When Wen Ming goes out and says, I don't believe any of these books, let's just take them out and burn them. That is the karma that handles with Wen Ming. When Beata, who's calling in from Sweden, says, hey, you know, there's more than one faith around. Let's just look at a loving heart to all things. That is the karma she carries. No amount of past karma can change your right to, in this moment, live the best life, the most loving, wholesome life that we could do. So the question of reincarnation, rebirth going on, great question. It's sort of like, why does Thay sing so well? He has a lovely voice, he's able to carry a tune, read music. In fact, I think at one time in this lifetime, he was the music director for a Catholic church. Why does that happen? The why doesn't matter. What matters is, what is Thay doing right here in this moment now? Yes, and I see Zen Kong is crossing himself. Yes, well done. So the question of future lives, the question of past lives, it's great to think about, great fun. It's great to imagine what it might have been. But the reality is, this moment right now, right here, is the most important time in our life. I can't change things that I've done in the past. I can only change the present and be mindful of things in the future. A friend of mine, a woman, we were both elderly, but this was a while ago, started to stumble and fall. And I reached out to grab her with my old arthritic hands and actually pushed her, and she fell really bad. So, Emily, let's go walking sometime. So the deal is, I have the karma of actually pushing an individual down. But I also have the karma of really trying and wanting to help. And so the balance of karma is our action and our intent. Our action and our intent. So if our intent is to do the best we can, let's say I was at a hospital and someone needed an IV started, and I said, oh, I've started thousands of IVs. I'll go start that IV. My hands are old and arthritic. I would probably poke them 50 times and have them bleeding to death before I could get coordinated enough in my old hands to get in a vein. But if my intent was to be helpful and to support, I have the karma of that intent to be helpful, even if the physical act was not as helpful. So what I would ask us all to do is let go of the mental formations of what happened in our past life. By the way, the book 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation by Ian Stevenson, who's a MD, said that people after 10 or 11 years old no longer have clear memories of past lives. He said if they did, that would hardly explain the 4 million people who swear they were Cleopatra in their past life. So Darcy, there goes your cover girl. There couldn't have been too many of you. So the journey of past life memories seems to end before the teens, seems to be something that is real, seems to be something that has been scientifically verified by physician researchers with double blinds and recorded histories and things, and also is beyond our wisdom. So whatever mental formation you wish to have, more power to you. I will tell you that I think often of my parents. As I get older, I realize my time on this earth is much closer to dying than being born. And I think of my parents, my grandparents, my friends who have died over the years, and think warmly of them, hoping that their life was worthwhile for them and that their energy goes on. I don't personally believe that I will see them again. I don't personally believe that they physically come back. In fact, the Buddha said that they don't. And I don't know what else happens. But I have joy in having known them and loving them and caring for them. And I have joy in this moment right now of being the best Kozen I can be. And that is our challenge. So we have right now 23 people in the room. We have 23 different beliefs of what reincarnation is. We have 23 different beliefs of what rebirth is. And that's okay. It's all just mental formations. Just mental formations. The Buddha's teaching is right here, right now, with each breath, to be as alive and loving and to look within and to really marshal our intent. The Buddha said that which we think we become. So when Carol thinks, I'm going to become a really good person, that's what she marches towards. When Kathy says, I'm going to be a terrible grandmother and just beat up all my grandkids, that's what she becomes. When Kozen says, I'm going to be an old arthritic man, that's what I become. So the journey here for all of us, my dear ones, don't worry too much about that which is done in the past. When we can, let's make amends. 12-step program is truly wonderful. So if I'm nasty to Patrick and I say, Patrick, Blumenthal's a crazy last name, it's just dumb, I'll come back as soon as I realize I did that and say, oh, Patrick, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I can make amends. That's the best repair I can do for past. But then for the future, going forward, I'll remember, Kozen, don't make personal comments about people's names. And that is our journey of awakening, my dear ones. Any questions? Any thoughts or concerns? Did I break anyone's strongly held mental formations?
Kozen, it's all water under the bridge.
All water under the bridge, yes. But I will tell you, there are places and mysteries beyond my awareness. When I went to Dachau, when I went to Auschwitz, I cried the whole time I was there. It was as if the ground itself hurt, the area it hurt. I've been to places up in the mountains and old temples in Japan that were so sacred, I was in awe the whole time I was there. So there are energies that I don't know and energies that I've experienced in life that are far greater than my awareness. The last thing I will tell you in this journey, there is a possibly mythological creature called a naga. If you go to Thailand, you see what looks like dragons as handrails going up steps. Those aren't dragons, those are actually nagas. They are beings between this world and another, and they have danced through Hindu mythology and Buddhist mythology for the whole time. The nagas are the guardians of the universe, and especially of nature and water. And they are said to be able to take human form and also to live well within the spirit of nature. Is that true or a mental formation? I don't know, but I try to take very good care of streams and mountains and land around because I believe that sometimes I can feel the energy of the nagas right here, right now. My dear ones, as Zen Kong just told us, it's all water under the bridge. May we all live in this moment, this breath, this intent, and remember the Buddha saying, what we think, we become. What we think, we become. Any last questions? Thank you, my dear ones.